Okay. So now I'm going to show you the other 4 styles, and these all base off of pulling off of a form. So what I have here is a prepared lug of clay with a similar cross section as you've seen before, where it's an almond shaped cross section, but it's really thick. And then I've actually cut this at an angle. And what I've done is take my finger and kind of pat it to create a fatter section for the handle to attach onto the form. So what I'll do is I'll just generally find the size of my handle and the attachment. So I'll mark out my needle tool, a general area where I'll score. And I'll take my needle tool and score one way really well. Then I'll apply water, let that soak in. And the goal for this is to get the consistency of your attachment point at a similar consistency to the handle. Go back the other way. And what I'm doing is creating a slurry that'll help the handle attach. I'll dry my hand off. Do the same with this. I don't need as much water on this side. It's already pretty saturated. Add a little bit. Go the other way. Then I'll take my finger and just compress along the edge. I don't want any score marks going off, and that might, cause cracking later. So now I'm going to attach the piece. So the best way to describe this is you're tacking it on at first, but then you're going to work it back and forth along the surface to really get those two surfaces you've scratched up to almost Velcro to each other. So I'm going to work it back and forth. Then I'm going to start compressing, working my finger around. And then I'll work on the top as well. So before I even start pulling, I'm already shaping the attachment point. What I'm after is nice, even lines that flow from the surface up, especially on the interior where your fingers will go. So once this is attached, I'll start pulling. And a great tip is if you've seen glass blowers when they attach handles onto vases and things, they're always supporting the end with scissors. So a great thing to do is when you're handling handles that you're going to pull off forms, always support the end. This becomes especially important after you've pulled it. So I'll dip it in water and start pulling. So I'll start from the bottom, doing the same thing as before, working the handle. This time I'm really using my thumb to really get some localized shaping. Thick, thin, thick, really focusing on the cross section and the attachment. I'm not worrying about too much mass at the attachment, but I want there to be a really nice transition between. And I'll flip to the top section and I'll start working that slightly. Again, using my thumb for the most part at this top section, working the edges, and then I'll finish on the bottom again. Working the edges, making sure that's a nice, smooth transition. And finally, I'll finish with a few thinning pulls, both forward and reverse, as this gets thinner. Then again, I'll hold at the base. Before I do that, I'll actually clean up some of the slip, compress the edges, hold it at the base, flip it, always holding, and allow that handle to kind of fall. I'll clean my hand off. And so you can already see the curve that's happening. And so what I'll do is I'll then let this set up, cut that off. I'll show that to you right now, actually. What I'll do is I'll support with my middle finger behind where I'm cutting. I'm always going to cut at a bevel to wherever I want this to meet the surface of the form. I'll work it down. From here, I can then transfer the cut end to my finger. I'll take what's left off, clean it up, and I'll actually find where I want to attach this section. I'm not actually attaching it right now, but I'm just getting a sense of volume and where things need to be. So from here I can then mark out my scoring, and I'll do the same thing up top, or below as I did up top. So that's one style pulled handle. All these are prepared with lugs. So the next will be a double handle. It's the same thing, same procedure, creating attachment point, scoring. I already know the general size, so I'll just go ahead and score. It's really important to slip and score, especially with these attachments, because they will pop off in the kiln. I've seen it before. All right. Score this side, some water. Press. Attach, work it back and forth. I'm going to transition up and attach. Making sure everything is well attached and suctioned on. Now we'll pull. And for this style handle, I'm really going to pull it longer than I need. This handle is really more about gesture, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be thin to start out with. So I'll give the attachment point a little more consideration before I flip. Okay. All right, so what I'll do is clean off the sponge again. This is way long for the cup, but we're going to be laminating the pieces together. So what I'll do is I'll grab the end, bring it up top, and give it a little bit of compression to attach that section on. And I'm doing it offset a little bit because it gives you the best line, for me at least. Compress, and I'll work and laminate the two parts together, giving some really light pulls. I don't want to ruin this line that's happening. Either side, I just want to get them tacked on and pull it just a little bit thinner at the top. Then I'll make sure the connections look good. Same thing, hold it at the base, push it on. And this one I'll cut the excess off, but I'll attach it now. So I'll score where I want it to be. A little bit of water. I'll tack it down at those marks. Then I'll take a damp thumb and just work it along that attachment. So what I'm doing is creating a larger attachment at the bottom with a line that flows from the attachment to the actual pulled handle itself. You can always backfill with clay to get that line right. But that's that, and then you can actually come back in. And adjust if needed. So that's that style.